There are many players which are involved and many facets which are now being looked at. What do you think will now happen in the next 24 to 48 hours?
Prophecy is not one of my expertise. I do think there will be the internet in Iran will have disruptions because the regime doesn't want the people to be exposed to what is said outside. On the other hand, no one really knows. It's word against word. It's the IDF spokesman against the trumpets of the regime in Iran. And even on social media, we don't know who's a bot and who's not. So things will unravel in the next 24 hours or maybe more to see what exactly took place, what's the damage.
Right.
And I hope that the Islamic regime will succeed in convincing the people that it was nothing and that there is no need for retaliation, because both the April 14th and the October 1st missile attack from Iranian soil on Israel were because of pressure that the government was under to retaliate the killing of high-ranking officers in April, and Ismail Haniya and Hassan Nasrallah in July and September.
Right.
So if there's no pressure from the people, they don't have to retaliate.
Tama, threats are flying thick and fast from both the sides. One side says something, then the other side responds to it. One of the major players in the war is also the United States of America. Do you think the upcoming elections will also have an impact on the ongoing war?
The upcoming elections is certainly part of the whole system of considerations of both sides. In Israel, there's a debate whether Harris will be better for Israel or Trump. Both have their drawbacks when it comes to Israel. Both have advantages or presumed advantages. In the Islamic Republic, they want Harris, they don't want Trump, because Trump was the one who came out of the JCPOA, which worsened the economic situation in Iran. It did. His stepping out of the JCPOA allowed the Islamic Republic to go back to enriching uranium,
right,
publicly and openly. We don't know what they did before. I'm not exposed to any classified material, only to what's written and to what's publicized. But it made the uranium enrichment public,
right,
and sped it up. So on this note, Trump is better for the Islamic Republic because he'll just allow them to do whatever they did publicly. But putting the sanctions back, even though lifting the sanctions didn't help the Iranian nation, the Iranian people financially, removing them didn't help, but returning them did worsen the economic situation, which actually made the public more supportive of the regime. On one hand, they said, you're to blame for our dire economic situation. On the other hand, I started hearing voices of people who previously said, we want to overthrow the regime, and started saying, but maybe if we know that we have financial security, we know what we're going to eat for dinner, maybe it doesn't matter who's ruling us.
Tamar, you've made a very interesting point, and you also said that schools have not been shut. Now, to many experts, those who are closely watching the region, what has happened over the past 24 to 48 hours is more symbolic, because the schools have not been shut, and many people believe life as regular, as normal is going on, at least in Iran.
The reason can be what they said, that really nothing happened, but it could also be that Israel strives as much as possible not to hurt civilians. Now, Hamas and Hezbollah have their tunnels under civilian neighborhoods. They don't leave any possibility but hurting civilians on the way to try to track their military targets. But Iran is not a guerrilla organization. It's not an organization, it's a country. And their military facilities are not located under or inside civilian neighborhoods. So it's much easier to target only military targets and leave the civilians to their own regular life. This is part of what we want to do.
You know, Tamar, one of the things that a lot of other people have been noticing is the fact that hitting the economy is also one of the facets of the war. And do you believe at the moment Israel is also concentrating on that, you know, making sure that the oil reserves, the oil does not go out? And also, from what we are understanding, a lot of reports said a couple of days back there was a major attack on Iran's banking system also. So is the economy, Iran's economy, also at play at the moment?
Targeting the economy can be a two-way sword, a double-edged sword, because on one hand, if we hurt the economy enough to make the people flow to the streets and take to the streets and overthrow the government, that's a good thing as far as Israel is concerned and the Iranian people. But it may also, if they're too hungry and the government can't supply them with their needs, and the government says, you see, they are trying to hurt you economically, but we are helping you, that can actually make people rally around the flag. And we never know the results until they happen. So that could be a bit risky.
Tamar, we've also seen how there's a certain pattern. There are attacks that take place after which Israel comes on, and you know we have the IDF spokesperson making a statement. And from what we have seen over the past many statements, the one thing which is common is the fact that Israel is doing whatever is necessary to save themselves.
This is of course true. The main the main target, the main goal of the IDF is to protect. It's called Israeli Defense Forces because it wants to defend Israel. That is correct. The killing of Hassan Nasrallah and Ismail Haniyeh and Qasem Soleimani 4 years ago, which was done by the states, but is also an Israeli interest, was done not to kill a bad person, but to prevent them from continuing to carry out their attacks. So it is in self-defense. But the interesting thing is that we hear the exact same claims on both sides. Both Israel and the Islamic Republic say, we only want peace in the area. We only want to protect our own people. And we attack the other side just to strengthen our deterrence, to keep peace and quiet and security in the area by deterring the other side, the oppressors, from escalating the situation. Both sides say exactly the same things.
Right, Tamar, you know, we have seen statements coming out from both the sides, and you rightly pointed out that the one word which is common is that they want to maintain peace. Now, both the sides say that we only want to maintain peace and we do not want to disturb what's taking place in the region. But also at times people believe that this word, peace, is often used as a smokescreen.
I partly agree with this. I think both countries really do want peace, or both governments want peace for themselves. The problem is, at least as an Iran expert, and I can also see similar things in Israeli society, but in Iran it's much more apparent. Both in April and in October, the retaliatory attacks took place because the regime was under severe criticism from the right, from right-wingers who said, you keep giving the Iranian honor,
Right,
you know, to others, and you have to save Iranian honor, you have to save Iranian deterrence. You keep saying and hard revenge every time someone is eliminated or becomes a shaheed, as they say in the Islamic Republic, or become a cutlet, as the dissidents say.
right.
You keep on saying but you don't do anything. And when Nasrallah was eliminated, almost 2 months after Haniyeh, which was not avenged, and Haniyeh, both are Arab, and Iranians are not Arab, but Haniyeh was killed in the safest place in Tehran.
Yes.
This is a big disgrace. So after Hania was eliminated, there was no retaliatory attack. After Hassan Nasrallah was eliminated, there were a lot of jokes from dissidents, from people who opposed the regime, saying, okay, he's now in the waiting list for hard revenge. And the regime can't tolerate that, because if the people will think it's weak, they might take to the streets and try to take Iran back to the Iranian people. And this is something that the regime does not want to happen.
Thank you, Tamar, for joining me. Now, after Israel, it is Iran that has threatened retaliation. Iran reserves the right to respond to the Israeli attacks. Iran air defense, despite the previous warnings to the Islamic Republican officials of criminal and illegal regime to avoid any adventurous actions. This fake regime attacked parts of military centers in Tehran. Now we are seeing it is Iran that has responded to the precision strikes being done by Israel, and they are saying that we have the right to respond to Israeli airstrikes. Now, after Israel made a statement, it is now Iran that is threatening retaliation. In a statement, Iran has said that it reserves the right to respond to these Israeli attacks. Despite the previous warnings to the Islamic Republican officials that there will be regime change if this happens, they have been asked to avoid any adventurous actions. Now, this fake regime attacked parts of military centers in Tehran. So this is a warning which has been shot to Israel by Iran. Iran is now threatening retaliation. It was Israel that, in a way, when they came out with a statement, in fact, it was the IDF spokesperson which said that what we wanted to do, we have done it, and now we do not want the war to escalate. The IDF spokesperson came out with a statement. In the statement, they categorically said, my colleague Gaurav Sawant is now taking over. Gaurav, over to you.
Says Israeli Defense Forces strike Iran. The big question is, what does this mean for the situation in West Asia? And joining me on this broadcast is Irina Sukerman, a security analyst who joins us from the United States of America. Irina Sukerman, how do you look at these latest developments? It was on the cards, but the timing of this attack and the impact of this attack in your appreciation.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. The timing is interesting because Israel wanted to accomplish this retaliatory strike before the November election, because this is a good opportunity to take this action before it becomes clear who is the next president. It could also give an opportunity for the Biden administration to bow out with some level of grace and goodwill, and give a sense of accomplishment to all involved. In fact, this strike was supposed to happen a few days earlier, but was disrupted by the leak of the plans from the Pentagon, which is now under the investigation by the FBI, which is looking into several officials at the Pentagon potentially responsible for the leak and the disruption of these plans. The impact will depend a lot on what targets were actually taken down. We know that there was a hit on a power plant, but so far the details have been scarce, and they could range from some symbolic sites, like headquarters, RGC headquarters, Khamenei headquarters, to drone and missile production sites and facilities, to Air Force bases and other military bases. So Israel had an opportunity to do some severe military damage.
What are options?
Capabilities.
Yes. Yes, and what are options for Iran now? Ayatollah Ali Khamenei warned in case Israel targets Iran, there will be an intense strike back. 181 ballistic missiles last time. In your appreciation, will there be a bigger response than last time, this time?
Well, that depends on what Israel took down. If they had decimated Iranian air force and or degraded their missile and drone capabilities sufficiently, Iran might not be in a position to do any serious retaliation by these conventional means in the near future. They could retaliate by other means, which could include some of their proxies, or they could include cyber attacks and other potential EMP attacks. However, if Israeli airstrikes only damaged some of the facilities and did not fully destroy all of the missile and drone capacity, Iran could significantly increase their future missile air attack against Israel and continue testing Israel's air defense capabilities. We now know that the U.S. placed a THAAD system. This could also mean that U.S. American troops could potentially end up being involved in any future direct attack by Iran on Israel, which is quite undesirable for many reasons. Israel at one point also reached out to the Biden administration about potentially placing a second THAAD system in case a future retaliation from Iran is significantly bigger than the previous attacks, which leads me to believe that the Israelis were concerned that they would not be able to take out sufficient number of missiles, of long-range missiles, and they could continue posing a danger and overwhelm Israel's defense capabilities and even THAAD defense capabilities, which leaves still a lot of room for escalation in the future potentially.
And in the way you look at the developing situation, so 1st of October was when Iran struck Israel. Israel took 26 days to strike back. Will Iran's retaliation also, Iran will prepare, wait for the right opportunity and then strike back? Perhaps, this spiral of violence, who's on top of the escalation ladder in your view?
Well, I think Iran will want to wait for the election results. If Kamala Harris wins, I think we could see much of the same policies by the similar to the Biden administration, and if so, Iran has no reason to stop as long as Israel continues limiting its response. And Israel made it very clear that they do not want an escalation, and their intention was to send a message of deterrence through these targeted strikes. It was not to further escalate the situation or even to cause a significant upheaval inside Iran. These strikes, by the way, had the approval and support of the United States. President Biden, prior to these strikes, did say that he had a fairly good idea of Israel's intended targets, and even if he didn't know every detail of everything, he approved the general range of it. So this was not fully coordinated with the U.S., but did receive U.S. backing and support. If Trump wins, Iran could see potential setbacks in the face of sanctions against its proxies and some of its officials, and a stronger response by the U.S. to some of the provocations against U.S. attacks. But I doubt that the Trump administration would want to intervene directly in bigger conflicts. I think they would prefer that either Israel handled it quickly and strongly, or wrapped up the operations and cut some sort of a deal with Iran, between Iran and the White House. And that is something else that Iran will be careful to watch for, whether the administration will pursue a more hawkish or a more isolationist position, which is anyone's guess, because some of the rhetoric coming from different officials around Trump seem to point to different directions.
Yeah, the fact that Israel was able to fly 100 fighter jets over several countries almost 2,000 kilometers. Does that indicate Israel has tacit support of countries in the region and, of course, the United States? And does Iran increasingly find itself isolated?
I think to some extent we are seeing a divergent policy in the region. I think some of the states for sure are supportive of Israel's position, some are neutral and watching to see what happens, and some are very much opposed to the way things are, but they're certainly not going to go against the United States, so they're not necessarily providing any support, they're just not interfering and causing more problems than they should. We do have to see that there's almost a dual policy in terms of Iran. In terms of economic and financial deals, there's actually a growing and closer cooperation between the GCC and Iran. In fact, there are rumors that the GCC may propose bringing Iran into the GCC community, despite the fact that GCC came out in response to the takeover of Iran by the Islamic Republic and as a self-defense measure by the Arab states against this new regime back in the 80s. But things are changing quickly now. But some countries there clearly feel more threatened than others, and some of them have resisted normalizing with Iran. Some of them still have not normalized with Iran, unlike many of the Arab states in the last few years. So we are seeing that there is some cooperation, but there's also conflicts. There are also financial and other interests, and there are also other dynamics going on behind the scenes that aren't all necessarily about Israel or about a direct confrontation between Iran and the Arab states. I think it's premature to say that Iran is completely
right now
isolated.
The information is very sketchy in public domain. We still do not know what military targets Israel has taken down. But will Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's regime be under pressure to strike back and hard, more than 181 ballistic missiles unlike last time? Or will they say, okay, there's a lot of pressure that's coming in from the world. Is Iran fired one salvo, Israel has responded with another salvo and only on military targets, so let's call it quits, and that gives Israel the leeway to go after Hamas, Hezbollah and Houthis and not target the regime in Iran. How do you see this pan out in the days and weeks ahead?
Actually, I think that Iran will be under pressure to respond in some way because it does not want its proxies to be further targeted. Hezbollah has been pretty much decimated by the recent attacks, and Hezbollah has been its most potent ally. Hamas has also been degraded in many ways, but it's also surviving and reconstituting in parts of Gaza. And Iran's agenda is to align elements of Hamas that are growing in West Bank and basically make sure that they reconnect with the remnants of Hamas in Gaza. So they need to make sure that Israel is pressured sufficiently that they cannot fully dedicate themselves to the southern front, and for that to happen, their proxies need to remain to retain some level of independence, some level of functionality. They cannot be fully destroyed. That would put an end to Iran's long-term projects for the region. And so it needs to find a balance between surviving to fight another day, even if it takes years to rebuild, but also not losing face in public in the immediate future. I think they will be looking to find a way,
and that does look increasingly difficult.
Not directly.
Okay. With Israel making it very clear it will ensure that Hamas never rules Gaza Strip again, and Hezbollah is no longer a force to reckon with south of the Litani River in southern Lebanon. Ma'am, for joining me here on India Today, many thanks.
On the war front, as per Israeli media, 3 waves of Israeli strikes took place against Iran. Citing the United States and Israeli officials, they said the first wave focused on Iranian air defense system. The second and the third wave focused on missile and drone bases and production sites. Now, these are the production sites where arms and ammunition are being produced. Precision strikes have taken place from the Israeli side, citing United States and Israeli officials. They said that the first wave focused on Iranian air defense system. The second and the third wave focused on missile and drone bases and the production sites. This is the latest attack that has come in from the Israeli side. Gaurav, as you were also pointing out towards the fact that now we are seeing waves of attacks taking place, and the idea is to cripple the economy so that Iran is not able to strike back. And there's a focus also because now we are seeing precision strikes being done by Israel.
So, Israel follows a very precise military strategy. Step one, it's called SEAD, or suppression of enemy air defenses. The S-300 systems, the other air defense systems that Iran has, Israeli Air Force fighter jets, it neutralized that from a standoff distance. It has fighter jets that use long-range missiles, whether it's the Rampage or the Rocks system, missiles. They took down enemy air defense. Then the similar equipment was used to target those military facilities that manufacture long-range missiles and rockets. The moment you do that, and of course the drones, those drones serve dual purpose. One of those drones, some of these Shahid drones were being sent to Russia to fight that Ukraine war. So when you take down that drone manufacturing facility, you're killing two birds with one stone. Ensure that those drones target Israel. Two, they're not being given to Russia to target Ukraine. So that drone manufacturing facility, we are told, was targeted. The rocket and missile facility was targeted. Some other military hardware manufacturing facility was targeted, and some air defense systems and military installations were targeted. So a very precise policy was followed by Israel to ensure a clear message goes out to Iran. It's not a symbolic strike. Every strike by Israel is substantive to send out a clear message. Now let's see over the next several days and weeks whether Iran strikes back, because some of their missiles, when those 181 ballistic missiles were fired, it fell 1 kilometer short of Mossad headquarters, or it took down an administrative building at the Nevatim air base, and that's a very crucial air base for Israel. But the next wave could have modern weapons, better weapons that could lead to more impact. And God forbid, if civilians are targeted on either side, we will see a massive escalation taking place, because both sides don't want to back down and appear weak, because they're actually sworn enemies of each other.
Right, Gaurav, please stay on with me. Our colleague Ashraf Vani is also joining us on the broadcast. Ashraf, we are now seeing, threats are being given from both the sides. It is Israel, which on one side is saying that we have done what we wanted to do, our precision strikes are over. But in case Iran retaliates, then Israel will be forced to retaliate once again.
Yes, Ashwini, absolutely. It is the war of the words between the two powerful countries in the Gulf, we can say. Actually, the all now depends on the US. US has already assured that Israel will not target the nuclear and the oil reserves of the Iran. That has been so far done by the Israel. They have only targeted the military bases that also outside the Tehran. Three bases what are confirmed by the Iran are Ilam, and they are that is around the Tehran, and then Khuzestan, and that is also on the other side of the Tehran, though so nearby Tehran, not Tehran has been directly targeted by the Israeli warplanes. So far there are not yet clarities that what kind of damage these aerial strikes has created inside the Iran. We are just waiting for the confirmations from the Iran. But one thing has been cleared so far, that number one, Israel has said that they have completed their attack on the Iran. Number two, that so far there is not any kind of aggressive statement which has come from the Iran. It indicates that it was a compulsion for the Israel who is already encircled by the Hamas, Hezbollah and Houthis to show to their people in the Israel that they have taken the revenge of the October 1 ballistic missile strikes of Iran. And also it was a kind of a face-saving before elections for the US that Israel has completed its attacks on the Iran. But so far it seems that it is still a symbolic strike carried out by the Israel. They have not directly targeted any nuclear site. They have not targeted any IRG headquarters or Iranian army intelligence headquarters or the Khomeini headquarters. That clearly indicates that the Israel, as it is aware, knows that if it will directly target any major site of the Iran is going to respond very aggressively, and that was clearly indicated by the Supreme Leader of Iran himself, as well as by the Foreign Minister of the Iran in different platforms, including in the UN. Israel is clear that, and they are fighting war for last more than a year now. On 8th of October 2023, Israel started the war against Hamas. Then it was started against the Hezbollah,
Right,
and it is
Ashraf.
going on against the Iranian interests in the Syria as well as in the
Right.
Yemen. So clearly watch and wait what kind of statement comes from the Iranian establishment about the response. So far they have said that they will check if there is any kind of a major damage by the
Right.
Israeli strikes. They are going to respond it.
PK Sehgal, defense expert, is now joining me on the story. Mr. Sehgal, precision attacks, that's how Israel is going about the war. Do you think the idea is to bring down Iran on its knees?
I have no idea whether they'll be able to bring down Iran on its knees or not, because they have not, as per America and as per Israeli statements, they have not attacked their oil installations or gas installations, nor have they attacked their nuclear installations. So whether is it a symbolic attack against these military targets, they're saying they're primarily hitting their military assets. Would they be air defense, suppression of air defense resources? It could be headquarters, it could be command and control centers, it could be even headquarters of Ali Khamenei, it could be even headquarters of IRGC. So what targets have they attacked, and what has been the results of those? Statements coming from Iran is that the attack has been largely unsuccessful. Israel has gone on record to say that for the last 1 year, Iran has been directly or indirectly attacking Israel through Houthis, through Hamas and through Hezbollah.